While we sleep, the guardians of the night take to the streets, having said goodbye to those they love. Each other knowing they may never say these words again, they face the evil that we run from. They dedicate their lives to those that would hate them because they wear the badge. They wear the badge not for the glory or recognition, but because they were born to honor the thin blue line. This is the LEO First Podcast. We'll talk to the men and women in law enforcement, those that have retired, and anyone who's impacted by law enforcement. We'll peel back the curtain, and you'll get the real stories. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Every law enforcement officer has a story to tell. Get ready to hear from the men and women who put their lives on the line every day for their communities and their country. Welcome to the LEO First Podcast. Now, here's your host, Michael Laidler.
Hey everybody, it's Michael Laidler, your host of the LEO First Podcast, and today we're going to have two guests on the show. You know, over the past year, actually probably the last 2 years, I've really done a lot to try to figure out how to get multiple people on the show, because what I've realized is the more people we have, it's just more fun. And you already know, based on watching prior episodes, that I'm all about speaking off the cuff or speaking just randomly, which sometimes get me in trouble. But I hope with the two guests tonight, I hope I don't get in any trouble. That's my goal. But I know at the end of the day, it's always about bringing value at different levels. And I think with two guests, it does. Now, these two guests, you've seen one on the show before. The second one, she has her own podcast. So I know that this will be a real treat. And we're just going to talk about what's going on in their lives right now. You know, some of the things I like to talk about is active stuff in the law enforcement officer's life, and whether they're in the career or they're not, or they're taking time off, whatever that might be. It's good to hear that we're just regular people. I was at a show a few days ago and someone said, Michael, why are you guys out here after hours doing community service events? I said, because we're just regular people like you. Like, we shop at the same grocery store. We go to the same restaurants. We pay the same electric bill. But sometimes when you see us in this uniform, you look at us differently, thinking that we're not real. So we do things like community events, just like the podcast, just to kind of highlight how great we are as people. So you guys have heard my intro, and you know I've shortened my podcast for the sake of viewership. So I don't want to ramble on anymore, but I'm going to go ahead and bring the two guests I have on right now. It's going to be Lyndsay Taylor and Autumn Clifford. Now, once again, you've heard Lyndsay last year. She was on the show. And once again, Autumn has her own show. But tonight, we have both of them on here, as you can see on the screen. Now, if you're listening to this via YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Music, you may not see them yet. But I promise you, I'm going to have multiple clips and reels to kind of show who was on the show tonight. And I know we'll have fun. And given the energy that Lyndsay brings and the energy Autumn brings, it's going to be interesting. I will tell you, Lyndsay had her coffee today. So she made sure to show us that. And we were like, oh my goodness, you're already bringing it. And it's like 2 hours away. So needless to say, we're going to jump into the show and we're going to just start talking. So I was thinking about who I wanted to start with. And usually I don't even have a coin that I would flip right now. But you know what? For the sake and purposes, because Lyndsay already had her coffee today, and I think she's very highly energetic. She has her dogs in the bed with her. Lyndsay, what do you want to talk about today?
A lot of things, especially because Autumn's on. I think that we talked a lot about like mental health and female law enforcement, and Autumn and I already know each other, and we've already had a lot of we did something last year with a female training, and I think that, you know, earlier we were talking about like people being haters and disliking, you know, people who are being successful, especially females. I know it's very, you know, the police world is crazy because it's awesome, but it's also at the same time not awesome. And specifically, you know, mental health, and then, you know, anybody who's a minority, specifically females, who are now climbing the ladder, becoming more and more, you know, prevalent in police world, you know, just how differently we are treated versus our male counterparts. And unfortunately in 2024, it's still happening today. You know, I'm still treated differently than anybody else. If that makes sense.
So Autumn, you see Lyndsay starting with big words like prevalent already. So it's going downhill fast. Well, I'm telling you right now, she hit prevalent on me. I almost sat back and almost walked away for a second. But Autumn, what you think about that Lyndsay's talking about right now? How's it been for
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. Well, what do you mean? First off, yeah, my mind went blank when she started pulling out the big words too, Michael. So I'm like, Lindsay, what are we talking about now? I'm totally teasing you. Yeah, I mean, here's like what I would like to bring to the table. Here's what I wanna talk about. Lindsay and I have talked a lot about this. I'm really big on it, and I know you are too, Michael, is the resiliency, right? We have to build emotional resiliency as a person, especially in the law enforcement, corrections, probation, in the criminal justice field. And the truth is Lindsay, as you were talking and you were bringing up, haters and us experiencing adversity, especially with coworkers, uh, past, current, etc., other people in the job. Um, the truth is, unfortunately, is that we eat our own in law enforcement. And here's my position on that as have been on the other side of that, unfortunately, um, throughout my career, as well as being once I got out of full-time law enforcement. I have experienced that. Here's what I think. I think that police officers, and I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Police officers, corrections officers, we deal with the 3 to 5% of the population that nobody else wants to be with, right? And so, in order for you to be a damn good cop, right, you have to think like a criminal. You really do. You don't need to become one, but you have to think like one. And what do we know? Like Tony Robbins, like one of the creators of like essentially like personal development and coaching. He always says you become like the 3 to 5 people you spend all of your time with. So unfortunately, what's happening in my mind is, and what has been happening for generations in law enforcement is we're becoming negative because we're around so much negativity.
I'm with you on that one. I know. I mean, I'm hitting my 20th year in law enforcement. I've worked in multiple industries as a street cop, border patrol, in the federal prisons, and you're right. We're pretty much surrounded by negativity all day, which that's what we all signed up for. We understood that, but when you're in a certain environment for a prolonged period of time, it definitely happens. Like it definitely creates this mental mindset that you almost have to be like the people that you're trying to protect in a sense of
Mm.
the sheepdog mentality, which I know you're big on that. And if you guys don't know, Lady Sheepdog, she got it all over. She's doing her thing. She got us. But it's one of the things that when we're not paying attention, we kind of just fall into that. So Lindsay, have you seen that, or how do you stay out of that?
So I've learned, instead of sharing a lot of information, share a little bit of information. So I used to be very open, very honest about things going on in my life with like my partner and my coworkers, and I've really reeled back on that. And I'll give it an example. My dad had to have surgery. It was like a major surgery. He got a lot of stuff taken out, and he had like a stuff made out of another part of his body. And a lot of people were nosy and like asked me questions, and I had some time off and just to help out and take care of himself. And people, my department was really awesome about it, but people are like, well, what's going on? Like, why are you not working? People are just nosy and they use information about you against you. I'm not saying specifically my department, I'm just saying as a general, like, if you're going through something in your life, like say you're going through a divorce or you're going through something mentally and you're going to a therapist and you're trying to figure out like what you're going to do with your next step. And, maybe you're just mentally not good. You know, it's one thing for people to care and want to like reach out and like help you, but it's another thing if they want to use it against you. And I know Michael and Autumn, we both talked about this at separate times what I dealt with when I was working part time. But I just think that you gotta give a little bit less and stop telling everything about what's going on in your life to specific people, but also it's kind of hard because you want to be open with people, but you also don't want to be open with people. Then again, if you meet people on the street, sometimes, they're going through mental stuff and you need to relate to them personally. So you give them something personal about yourself, then they know that information about you, but you're also trying to help them. So it's like a double-edged sword, whether, you give a little bit or you give too much, you come off as like standoffish, or you come off as like you're not trying to be open with the people you're working with. So it's hard because you want to be friends with who you're working with, but at the same time, when it comes to people who they aren't your friend and they're like your boss. Like you kind of have to only tell what you can tell, and sometimes keep some stuff to the chest. And then a lot of officers keep it to the chest and they don't tell anybody. And holding on to that negativity or holding on to those emotions, you're not telling anybody, you're not dealing with it properly. Like we talked about, Michael, before, all this mental health problems with officers,
Right.
and where there's the stigma of that we have to be so strong and no emotions, and it's really not the case. I mean, you're still, again, a human being with feelings and emotions and stuff like that. So how do we make that not a stigma? How do we make that, like it comes off like females are so emotional, and sometimes we don't think rationally because we're just an emotional being. But that's also a positive too. Like I feel like it helps you relate to women or other people struggling at the same time. So it's really like a line you have to learn how to dance upon. And if you step on one way, you fall off and you fall off a cliff, or the other way, you kind of look like you're just not trying to be a part of the group as well. So it's hard.
I know. So I have a lot of, so my range of audience is from probationary rookie officers all the way to retired executives. Based on what you all have experienced, let's say for you, Autumn, for example, in your time in law enforcement, if an executive, let's say a chief of police, came up to you and said, "Hey, how can we improve the culture to where we're not eating our own?" What is some stuff you would tell him or her?
Well, Michael, I'm so glad that you asked me this question because actually, this has been my mission for the last 9 years where I developed my life coaching company. My podcast is currently called She's an Asset. Prior to it being called that, it was called Change the Culture because that is what I've been really big on, right? Is how can we change the culture? And because of the suicide epidemic. If you are unfamiliar with the suicide epidemic as a listener, I really encourage you to go on to Blue Help. Is it Blue Help ME
Might
or
be dot
Blue
.org.
dot org? Yeah, go check them out. It's a nonprofit. They have the numbers updated, reported numbers updated for corrections, law enforcement, FD, and dispatch. Like they have all the numbers. They're excellent organization. But once a week I'll go hit that and just so that I can be reminded of what the reality is. And so what would I say? Well, here's the thing.
Go ahead.
It really is in my mind. It is so multifaceted. It's not funny. One of the things, this whole like, when you guys know this and any cop on here knows this, when, we need to figure out the promotional process. Number one, promotional, when you guys know when promotions come out, everybody is, oh my goodness, they are on their best behavior, but they will stab absolutely anybody in the back in order to get promoted. I mean, I've never seen, I remember being a rookie on FTO and like my FTO would talk about it. It's like, oh yeah, you be careful around promotion times. Like people you don't even know. It's going to get really backstabbing and everybody's going to be a certain way. So, and I saw it over and over and over again, every police department, and I hear it all the time. So I really think we need to look at the way that we're promoting. I think that we need to look at, the hours that we're asking these human beings to work. You are asking human beings to work, 18, 20-hour shifts. Like there's no sleep. I mean, we're going into psychosis after we haven't slept for what, like, is it even 18 hours? I can't remember what it is, but is it at is it the 18 or is it 20-hour mark? You start acting like a 0.05% alcohol blood level. And then it just increases. And so this is who we have out on the road making life and death decisions. And then you add stress onto that. I mean, these nervous systems are completely dysregulated. So I guess really the question is for me, and this is what I've sat down with multiple chiefs, multiple majors in state police organizations, city, county organizations, and I said, well, how can we support these people's like literal nervous systems, like from the ground up? Like, what can we do? And everybody's always like, therapists. Yes, I want to say this. I have a therapist. I recommend everybody has a good coach or a good therapist. Lyndsay was talking about the mental health
I
and
have one.
like, yeah, yeah. And
I
we
love
were
it.
talking about that and 100%. It's so needed. So I think we need that, but we also need far more beyond that. I know down in Broward County, they actually have areas all throughout the county where they're like calm rooms for the deputies where they can
Yeah.
go and they can like chill. And it's like grounding music, it's like lavender, it's like all these things. And it's literally for these deputies to go and just regulate for a minute. Because how can you regulate? Meaning, how can you be calm and make, well, like rounded decisions when all you are in fight or flight constantly? Your hypervigilance is through the roof and you are stressed out beyond measure. Whether you know it or not, that is what's going on in your body. So, of course, we're going to talk shit. Of course, we're going to be on defense all of the time. Of course, we're going to, snap and I can't believe this. I can't, and like you're just constantly angry. You don't even realize it. Of course, we're going to be that way. So, those things, Michael, and then I'm going to leave you with this because I feel like this could be implemented very quickly. One of my favorite, suggestions I've ever made was, we need to restructure how we're doing briefings. Like briefing is bullshit. Like, I don't know about you, but every agency I've worked for is just bullshit. We talk about something good for 5 minutes, like something like here's what was on the other shift. And then next thing you know, it's a bunch of bullshitting. It's not helpful. So what could be happening was we could be doing a debriefing after shift instead of that turning into choir practice where everybody's drinking and everybody, and talking shit. If we made it structured, so after shift, we have a worked in half an hour of a debrief. How was shift? What was going on? How was that traffic stop? How was that call? How are you feeling? I mean, we could be checking in and we could be doing the same thing at the beginning of shift because the thing and I know this is long-winded. You got me on a very,
Go ahead. That was the point.
Very passionate subject. So I apologize, but again, and like Lyndsay said this, we are humans, right? We are humans. Michael, you said this. That's the point of this podcast. We are humans. And so we have to treat our officers, our corrections officers, like human beings. We have to talk, right? We need to talk about, we're seeing all this traumatic stuff. The other thing I'm going to say is, we think about like EMTs and FD professionals. Okay. I love them. I really had great relationships with my EMTs. They'd actually, one of my police departments I worked at where I first started, they would actually show up on my traffic stops as my backup. It was incredible. They were cool. Incredible. Yeah, I'd go and we'd get in fights and like they'd have my back. It was great. But the thing is they're together. So they go deal with like a call and then they're like in the back of the FD truck together, or they're all in the bus or the ambulance together. And then they get to go and like eat dinner and like debrief together. Where law enforcement, we all go get into our separate cars and we have to go to the next call. Like shove that shit down. You got another call. And we don't ever get the opportunity to unpack that. So,
okay. I thought you were on the roll. I was going to let you keep rolling with that.
Well, I'm trying not to be super long-winded, but I think that those are really important, like points, and especially like to begin with. So where would we begin? Well, there you go.
Well, no, and you're right. And it's kind of cool because that is the start of a shift. So why don't we start off with actually talking to each other and dealing with problems or preparing for them rather than, like you said, wait to the end of the shift, whether it's 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, 16 hours. And now we're like, okay, let's pick up the pieces, because sometimes if you wait to pick up the pieces, it's already too late. So it's one of the things that you got to kind of change the mindset on. But I never thought about that. That's good, Autumn. I never thought about actually starting to address some of these things more often in briefings, because the sergeant, lieutenant, the shift supervisor, whatever they call it, they do have the opportunity because they have everybody in the room, especially if you have your standard police department where you have a roll call or something like that. But you always have that opportunity to bring everybody together and just start off on the right thing and start to kind of do a heat check to kind of see how everybody's doing before getting out into the road.
And I just want to say this, and like Lyndsay, I'd love for you to pipe in on this. But the thing is, Michael, is I have two things that I want to say about this. Is I can't speak for you two, but I know for me, like when I would handle a hot call or hot call to me, right? It might not even be like this big thing, but to me, I got stressed out. It was always good for me to sit with my, whoever was with me, be it my sergeant, my partner, maybe both, whatever, and be like, hey, what did you think? What were you going like this? I did the reason I did this was this. What did you see? Well, and this person's like, well, the reason why I did this is because of this. It's like great learning opportunities, but then it's also bringing closure, because how many times are we getting off a call and we're pissed because we're like, what the fuck do you do that for?
Yeah.
I don't even understand. Why did he shut me down? Why did she do this? Like, what the fuck? And then, so now we're all upset. We're already all stressed out. And so, where are our nervous systems? More dysregulated. So, again, I think this just brings closure. But then the other thing, too, is look at the relationships you're building
Correct.
just by having conversations.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, if we really, we talk about, right? Like everybody's so quick to stab us in the back, and it can be people want to talk shit. They want to be nosy, like Lyndsay was talking about. But look how quickly we can build solid relationships by just communicating about our feelings. Like, and it doesn't, we're not getting mushy. We're
Correct.
just being like, yeah, man, this is what I was going through. This is what I thought. I thought you were going to do this. So I felt like this was the right thing. And we're just building these relationships.
All right, Lyndsay, you're on the sideline. I know you're over there foaming at the mouth over there. You over there shaking. You got the coffee done built all the way up to your system. And I know you got what talk to us.
So a lot of brought up a lot of good points. So I just want to point out, so like for me, like we don't have like a roll call because we're so tiny. Basically, we come in, we relieve the next shift, and that's kind of it. But if we're here during the day, like from my perspective, like our chief and our lieutenant and the detectives are there, and my sergeant is either on or off. It just depends on the shift. Like my partner has been absent a lot he's doing trainings and other things, so it's just me and my sergeant usually now. But Autumn brought up like a ton of points for me. I just wanted to digest it. So I just, it's interesting because sometimes smaller departments, we don't have like a lot of people. So there's maybe just me and my sergeant on the street. So it's interesting the points you bring up because like we don't discuss like a lot of things, like unless there was something that I did that was specifically wrong.
Right. Exactly.
We don't bring up things that were like, you know what, Lynn's like, you did this amazing. And I'm not saying my sergeant doesn't do that. He does. But like, I feel like things are more focused on the negative and what could have been wrong or like done differently. Or like, I'll get told like, hey, like, you should have done this and this. And I'm like, well, but I did do this and this. So like, is that just your perspective or is that just your opinion? Because we all know there's 9 ways to skin a fucking cat. We know that.
Exactly.
Okay. So
I don't know who figured out the first one, but yes, that's true.
But like, is it really, did I do something wrong or is it because in your eyes?
Correct.
And like, I'm always down to hear other people's opinions on things that have done. And like, look, my department's not crazy busy. Autumn knows it's a small department. We have a lot of stuff that we have to do. So I'm not like crazy with hot calls. But when calls come out, like, we go and we deal with it. Like we had to deal with the escaped prisoner and we had like debriefings on that, or like a major incident that we're dealing with. We do have debriefings, but I think that, if there's something that happened, like we are allowed, like they bring in people to speak to us about, they bring therapists in for us to talk to through the township. But like, again, I found myself not having any issues with the calls, but other people have, and they didn't want to talk to that person, but they come and talk to me, or they're going through something and they come to me and they talk to me about it. So it's interesting is if you put a bunch of cops in front of a therapist and it's mandated, I'm not talking to that therapist because you're putting me in an uncomfortable situation. So I feel like if someone wants to talk to somebody, I feel like they shouldn't be forced to. And I wasn't forced to either, but they wanted us to talk to them. Mm-hmm. So we all kind of did. But, you can't also force someone to want help. The person has to want to get the help themselves. But like, we're in this stigma again where, we're all tough and, nothing's bothering us. And then you go home and maybe the person starts feeling that way. Like, I'm one of those people who I'm very like this, and I shut myself off emotionally when I'm at work, and not like completely, but I nip it in the bud in specific ways. So when I start my shift, I do a deep breath and I just cut things off, especially if I have something going on in my life. Like I've had a lot of stuff going on recently in my life, but I go into work and I shut it off, but it's hard on night shift and there's nothing going on. You could have a partner who's spiraling and thinking about things that they shouldn't be thinking about at work. You have no idea, So I think that we just kind of need to, there's a better way to do things. And I think that, a lot of the people who are sergeants and admin and stuff like that are like the old school guys. And there's a new school of policing coming in and they don't know how to deal with it, because how I police and what I've learned from different places, like the older guys, they want to do it the old way. And it's a new era, dude, unfortunately for them.
So I heard something. I got excited. I wanted to jump in, and I was like, crap, I don't want to throw her thought off. So one thing that we've talked about in like mental wellness and trying to figure out how to maintain that work-life balance is shutting it off. Have you found, like, Lyndsay, in your past, that when you try to shut things off that are going on at your personal life, that it almost seeps out when you're at work? Like, because I know that's one of the things that people are starting to see. Like, they say, well, shut it off in one direction or the other, but then it ends up coming out when you least expect it. Like, have you seen that happen with you?
I have had it. So depending on the stress level and what's actually going on, my partner will be like, "You're being off today," or like, "You're not like your normal self," or whatever. And sometimes in the beginning of shift, that's just like my process of like turning the gears. And also depending on the shift, if I'm day work, I'm totally like all the way up here. You know what I mean? It like energy wise, and then night shift's a little bit different for me. I go to the gym before to calm myself and get
Yeah.
myself regulated. Um, sometimes we're humans, we're imperfect, right? So like if I have a lot of time to think and I'm driving around and I'm listening to podcasts and trying to distract my mind while I'm patrolling and checking certain areas, I do feel like night shift is hard for a lot of people, especially younger people. And it's interesting to say that because I think that, this younger generation of police officers, they have had social media their whole lives. They're addicted to their phones, and there's a lot of texting and a lot of what's the word I want? Like a lot of relying on attention from other people for validation. And I'm one of those people too, where like if you're not getting the immediate attention or the immediate like need at that time, I feel like the younger police officers, they don't understand how to regulate their emotions. And we talked about this before, Michael, when I ended our podcast last time, about how do the people that we deal with, do they ever think about what they do to us? And I know, Autumn, you can relate to this too, where like, we've dealt with people on the street, or, we're seeing people on their worst day. And I told you, Michael, about certain traffic stops where people have like absolutely just like reamed me out or screamed at me. And it had nothing to do with me. And do they ever think about what they do to us and then what I go home to, and they have no idea? And vice versa, Autumn, all these people who, come at you for being a successful woman and actually helping people, which you have. I literally witnessed it myself with 50 other girls, so it's like, on one hand, we're going in and we may be dealing with, bad things, and then people coming at us with bad things. So we're in this like cycle, right, where it's flight or flight constantly. And then we go to a call and we're supposed to be helping people, but then, we go on traffic stop and people are screaming at us. So like, is there really ever a time where you're just regular? And I think about it all the time. Like, if you're really busy, there's a lot of stuff going on, you never have a chance to just take a breath. So it's like a lot of factors come into play here, and then we're constantly negative and in the negative and in the negative all day long. And then you come home and where do you dump it? And all these guys and girls keep it to the chest. So how can we continue 25 years of that if there's nowhere to dump all that?
No, it's rough, and I know Autumn was gonna touch on this, and then we'll round this part out because we're getting close to our time. But Autumn, touch on this because I know you have great insight on this, and I know you're just kind of like Lyndsay was earlier, kind of shaking to kind of give a response on this. So tell us, what is your conclusion based on what she's saying?
Well, I think what Lindsay's saying is 100%. And what I was going
Agree.
to add to it, Michael, is what are some tools? What are some tools? What are some things that we can use right now? Right. And so um, this is just something that I'm really into. I've been into for myself. I personally, was injured in the line of duty. I suddenly had to stop being a full-time police officer. I'm still dealing with that back injury that took me out. I was couch ridden for 6 months. And the reason I tell you that is I got diagnosed with PTSD and an anxiety disorder. And I think that really, and that was from the job. That wasn't because like I was like on the couch. I'm just telling you that was from the job. But when you're sitting on the couch and you've got nothing but time, and I couldn't even sit, I was really laying down. You got nothing but time, everything just amplifies. Okay. And so I really believe that what I'm about to share with you has really saved my life. And I think that I know that it has saved and can save a lot of other people's lives. I think first and foremost, like we talked about, we have to start doing things to regulate that nervous system, right? Um, Lyndsay talked about the hypervigilance pattern. I actually have a visual on my Instagram. You'd have to scroll down a lot, but I actually made the hypervigilance, like what it looks like for a police officer in
Wow.
one day. And that you're just up and that up and up. And then when you have a moment, you go way down. So like when you're at the PD and you're on lunch and you know you've got like 20 minutes of somebody else has got like the calls for you, you just kind of sink, man. You just kind of whoo. And then you're like, nope, way back up. And you're never at really like normal. You're not
Yeah.
at like the baseline where normal people kind of hang out, people who aren't experiencing life and death every single day, multiple times a day. So we really need to be regulating. So what does that look like? Well, Lyndsay, you brought up a lot about a great points of how we keep things to our chest, right? Because we don't want to burden the people we love. We don't want to go and be like, you don't understand this crash, and I just dealt with this infant, and this infant died, and then this mom, and then this woman got the crap kicked out of her, and then this homicide or this sudden death, and it was terrible, and nobody knows what happened, and the person was 28, reminded me of myself, and blah blah blah. Like all of this stuff is very traumatic. So we should be writing things down, right? So we should have a journal, and you should just be writing things down to get it off of your head and get it out of your chest. I recommend everybody has a therapist or a coach. I'm going to tell you right now, you do not want to talk to a therapist. There are excellent coaches. A friend of mine, I'm sure you've heard of him, Michael. His name is John Kelly. He's the law enforcement life coach. I recommend him. He
Really good
retired.
podcast too.
Great podcast, great dude. He's just a great dude. And he retired from a Florida sheriff's office. He's originally from New England, so that's where I'm from. So like I like him, but I'm just saying, get yourself somebody to chat with who's not like your family or a friend, right? I think that's important. I think also breathing. Right now, to anybody who's listening, where are you breathing? I guarantee you are breathing from your chest. You are not breathing from your stomach. You're not filling up that belly bowl, which is actually how we're designed to supposed to be breathing. Watch a baby, right? Watch that little belly go in and out. That's what they're doing. You're stress breathing and you're keeping yourself stressed. Your energy is in your chest. It's in your head. What do they say about being in your head? If you're in your head, you're dead. They teach us that at the academy. But yet that's what we're doing. We're breathing. We're constantly always in our head. So we want to be taking deep breaths. The other thing too is, are you actually paying attention to your thoughts? And I'm not going to go dive deep into this. Lyndsay knows I do full day trainings on this. This is the emotional resiliency that I talk about, Michael. But the thing is like, pay attention to what you're thinking about and then do something about it. If you don't like the thoughts that you're thinking, then take some action on that. I think these 4 steps would really help. Now, obviously, take a walk, get outside, exercise, eat right, all those things. We know that. But just beyond that, I think that these are some really good tips and tricks that people can start implementing like immediately.
Man. Whew. Man, between the stories and the tools and the strategies and all the approaches, I know people were listening. They're more likely they done went to Amazon, ordered the journal. They're in their notes on their iPhone or their Samsung. They probably got a piece of paper out writing on trying to take everything down. And trust me, folks, if that is you right now, you can rewind it. Trust me, it ain't like this is a dissolving podcast. You can replay it a few times because if you didn't hear all those nuggets that Autumn said and then Lyndsay mentioned, then you're going to miss out because these are things that you can implement today. My executives that are listening, which I know you are, these are things that you can use at your departments, at your dispersal, and it's free. Or you could say, well, you want to buy some notepads. What is that going to cost you? $50? Depends on how many people you have. Maybe, let's say 500. The little things you can do to help alleviate stress that doesn't take a lot of effort goes such a far way. So, Lyndsay, if someone was looking to find you, how would they do that?
They can find me at Lyndsay, Lyndsay with 6 Ys on Instagram. You can try me on Facebook. I'm a little bit more private on Facebook. Instagram, I'm a little more free-spirited if you want to say that.
I love your Instagram. I love following your Instagram.
It is
no one ever
entertaining.
knows, man.
It is. How about you, Autumn? I know you. And just for Autumn, tell you guys she does have a solid podcast. She's back in the game, so make sure you guys subscribe to her on that. So, Autumn, if they're looking for you, how would they find you?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. So you can find me. She's an Asset is the name of my podcast, the name of my company. You can find me on all the socials under She's an Asset or Autumn Clifford on literally every social media platform.
I know the
Literally.
feeling. Yeah. I'm on X. I don't even know what's going on in X. I'm on all these
Same.
random ones. Snapchat. Well, I have a Snapchat. I don't really use it, but I'm on random things. There's some other ones that I've heard people come up with, and I know there's the threads for the Instagram. I don't even know what goes on threads.
I don't even know how to use that.
I just keep getting alerts. I don't even know. It's like you're following this person, this person. I'm like, I'm not even going into the software. How am I following anybody? But that's neither here nor there. But if you guys want, Autumn's on everything, needless to say. So since you were the last one that talked about where people can find you, what are your final words?
My final words. I think the biggest thing that I would just like to say to anybody who's listening who might be having a hard time that you're not alone. I just think it's really important. You carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. I get this. This job is tough. The career is tough. You have a family and you're dealing with things that honestly people really are having a hard time understanding because law enforcement is no longer the same job it was even when I got in 12 years ago. It's completely changed now. So and my heart goes out to, like Lyndsay. I mean, you're out there, you're doing this job right now on the road and it's hard. It is hard. It is change and it is hard. So I just think it's very important for everybody to know, hey, you're not alone, but start understanding. I want you to take control of your thoughts. I want you to start taking control of your breath and regulate that nervous system. It'll make a big difference.
All right, Lyndsay, talk to us. What final words you have?
All right. All right. Final thoughts. I just wanted to say I want everybody to know who's listening now, like you are loved. People love you and care about you no matter what you're struggling with, whether you're a police officer, you're just a regular person, you're in some sort of law enforcement, or you want to get into law enforcement. You're loved, and all these overthinking thoughts you have, or all the emotions or things that you're going through, they're going to pass. They really are. You're going to be okay. If you aren't okay and you need help, please reach out to one of us. Talk to somebody, get a therapist. And I just want people to remember, like, it's okay to be going to therapy. It's okay to be finding something that makes you happy and it's helping you with law enforcement. Get a workout regimen. Eat right. Don't drink too much caffeine. And I know that's a caveat for me, but I have,
I don't know. I don't know.
We've talked about this before. Limit the caffeine.
Right.
If you're struggling, reach out. And, first and foremost, like, you need to put yourself first. And I know it's hard with some people having families and stuff like that. You need to set at least an hour time, journal, do something that makes you happy, work out, get a routine. You need a workout partner? I will teach you. I'm not a professional, but it has saved my life literally through very dark times. And, if you don't feel like you're loved or you don't feel like you're okay, you need to tell somebody, because you're going to do no good for somebody who actually needs help. And that's what you're there to do.
If you all didn't hear it, you are not alone and you are loved. Those are things that we have come around in 2024, realizing that those 6 words, I'm going to say 6, I didn't count all of them, but I'm going to say those 6 words are extremely important to know, because that whole stigma that we started off with decades ago, that's over. That's over. And you've heard it from 2 people that have lived in this environment. And obviously they're here today to kind of share what they've gone through. And when you all hear it, don't brush it to the side, whether you're thinking about law enforcement, you're in it, you're retired, whatever it might be, you're not alone and you are loved. Those are so impactful that it's almost like we should make a t-shirt with just those 2 things. One saying you're not alone and the other one saying you are loved. Just having side by side, just so you can know how important that is. We appreciate everybody that had the time to listen. If you really liked what you heard, please share it. If you don't like what you heard, it doesn't matter. We're just going to act like you didn't listen to it anyway, so we won't know. But
Amen, brother. Amen.
But if you do like it, all kidding aside, please share it, because we're out here in the business of spreading the message. We're out in this business to highlight what people are going on, because our numbers haven't got any better. And a lot of the times, because people do feel that they are alone and they feel like they're not loved. And we want them to know that, no, there's people out here, all demographics, all genders, all industries that really care. And that's what we're about. We're about taking care of our brothers and sisters, and do stuff like this, do these conversations and these messages. That's what it's here for. So once again, everybody, thank you for tuning in. If you haven't done it yet, make sure you go to Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, hit up both of their Instagrams, Lyndsay with the 6 Ys and then Autumn Clifford. And that way you'll keep up with everything they have going on. And obviously, you know me at Michael Laitler on most of the platforms, even the X and the other one, that the Snapchat that I really don't get on, but Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, I'm all there. But I'm all there because I want to spread the message of these great people that we have around here. Everybody, you have a great day and you be safe.
You've been listening to the LEO First Podcast. Michael has been in law enforcement since 2005. He's worked for 3 law enforcement agencies in 3 different states. He's a professional speaker who travels the country teaching about leadership development and self-awareness. And he's the author of a book called Greatness Beyond the Badge: The 3 Key Principles for Self-Awareness. It's Michael's passion to bring law enforcement members' stories to the front, so you get the real and raw take. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with Michael on YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Michael Laidler, on Twitter at Michael A. Laidler, on Facebook at Michael Laidler Leadership. Send an email to michael@michaellaidler.com and hit the website at michaellaidler.com. See you next time on the LEO First Podcast.
I'm vehicle is routing and